Fun 101, Mick and the Music. I have a very special female guest with me today, and before I tell you who she is, let me just give a little background information, some backstory information. She was the winner of the 2006 Canadian American Idol, the Canadian version of what American Idol is. A very successful recording career in Canada. Also an actor, a model, and currently part of the female ensemble of the Pink Floyd tribute band, Brit Floyd, which, by the way, comes to the Cobb Energy Center on May the 22nd. Brit Floyd will be revisiting the Pink Floyd album, Wish You Were Here, this year, marking the 50th anniversary of that particular album. In concert with Brit Floyd, she brings the house down as she does the vocals to Great Gig in the Sky, done originally by Claire Torrey on the Dark Side of the Moon album. Honestly, if you have attended a Brit Floyd show, you would swear Claire Torrey was the one performing. To simply say that this lady is a female vocalist would be like saying that the Grand Canyon is a ditch. And having said that, I want to welcome, and I hope I'm going to say this name correctly, Eva Avila.
Hi, that's quite an introduction. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, listen, before we get to what you do and being with the group of Brit Floyd, do you mind if I back it up a little bit?
I don't mind at all.
All right, let's do it.
Back away.
All right, your music. You started performing in Canada publicly at the age of 2. So this has been basically what is your life right now. But could you kind of speak on those years? And I know you were musically inclined by what your dad was doing. So could you kind of speak on that for us, if you don't mind?
Of course. My father is Peruvian, so born in Peru, came to Canada. He was about 19, 20 years old, and he is. He is a self-taught musician. He sings a little bit less now, but he does on occasion. But back then, he was like a busker on the street in the Byward Market in Ottawa. So he was, multidisciplinary musician, keyboards, guitars, of course, vocalist. He, sings in 5-6 languages. So at a very young age at the house, he had his rehearsing studio, his music studio. So I started manifesting my interest to music quite young. And one time he took me to the Byward Market in Ottawa at his busking site. He used to attract crowds and crowds of people and make them dance with his, Latin music. And that was the first time I performed in front of an audience. I was 2.5 years old, more or less. I was in 1990, summer of 1990. So, yeah, it's been my entire life. You could say that I was really born into it, literally.
You won a talent show at the very young age of 9. A program I think was entitled Homegrown Cafe.
That's correct.
And
yes.
then you also, away from music now, you had to support yourself. So you were a postal clerk at one time and also a beauty consultant. That, I think, Maybelline came knocking at your door. Could you kind of talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, Maybelline came after I did Canadian Idol. I was very, very lucky, very fortunate. I signed a contract with a modeling agency for ambassador and sponsorship deals. So Maybelline New York was amazing enough to ask me to be their very first Canadian beauty ambassador. So that was great. Did a lot of campaigns for spring shoes, amongst others, Sony Electronics, some health and wellness and mental health campaigns for youth. So I was really, really privileged to be associated with some amazing causes and brands. And yes, you're correct. At one point, I was working for Canada Post when I was, I believe, in college, like right after high school for several months. And then I went on to audition for Canadian Idol, and, the rest was history after that.
Did you play in high school bands coming up?
No, I performed at school a lot in like talent shows or like end of the year concerts and whatever activities were happening with school and entertainment and stuff. But I wasn't in a band per se. I've always been more of a singer. I play a little piano, but that's about it. I've never really been in a band. Well, except for Brit Floyd right now.
Well, things turned for you in the year 2006. You auditioned for the 4th season of Canadian Idol in Ottawa. You were announced
Correct.
The winner on September 16th of that year. First of all, what leads to your decision to audition, and what audition song got you in the door?
I kind of was a little bit reluctant to audition, to be honest with you, because my family and friends were gently encouraging me to audition and to, just take a leap of faith. And I kind of had my own path made up in my mind. I was going to study musical theater in Montreal. I was saving up money to, get an apartment out there. And I definitely knew that I wanted to entertain and perform. And, I'm also an actor, so I've done a lot of theater work. And then I kind of wasn't interested in auditioning for the show, but I really went on a whim. I kind of woke up the morning of the auditions in Ottawa, and I had a strange, gut feeling, like a pull at my sixth sense that said, you know what, you should just go and take a chance. You have nothing to lose. Just go for it. And I'm really glad I listened to my gut instinct because, a few months later I was announced the winner of the whole thing, and I was definitely not expecting it. It was quite, a huge surprise for me, a huge turn of event, but it was definitely the event that catapulted my career at that time. I was only 19, but I'm so glad I listened to my gut instinct because I might not even be where I am today if it wasn't for that decision.
What was the song at that audition that opened the door?
Oh, I did Angel by Sarah McLachlan, a beautiful Canadian singer-songwriter. And it's always been one of my favorite go-to songs, especially to sing a cappella. So that was the song that I performed. I remember it, so clearly. I was so nervous, and it's such a beautiful, soulful song with an amazing backstory to it. So yeah, it's always going to be engraved in my memory for sure.
And of course, you have to perform week in and week out while you're on Idol, and just some of the artists that you did cover. You just mentioned Sarah McLachlan, but also there was Roberta Flack, Billy Idol, Queen, the Rolling Stones, and even Dolly Parton. Now, you want to talk about running the gamut of vocalists. I can't imagine you doing Billy Idol or Rolling Stones. Obviously, you knocked it out of the ballpark because you kept winning week in and week out, kept advancing.
Thank you. Yeah, well, the great thing about those shows is they offer a great, variety, and every week, it's the same concept as American Idol, although unfortunately Canadian Idol didn't last as many years as American Idol is lasting, unfortunately, but what it offers is that every week it's a different theme, a different musical theme, different genre. So, to kind of get in line with those different themes week after week, I really had a lot of fun selecting songs and making them my own and, performing them, with my own twist. So definitely such a great experience. So
after Idol, things, I guess the best way to describe it would be something of a whirlwind because things happen quickly for you. You sign, you alluded to this a moment ago, you get a BMG Canada record label deal, your first single, Meant to Fly. It debuted at number one on the Canadian singles charts, and it stayed there, I think, for 9 weeks, if I did my research right. It went double platinum, 4 top charting singles, a Juno nomination, and we talked about the lead role in a Toronto musical, supporting act for Beyoncé's 2009 Canadian tour. How did Beyoncé find out about you?
Well, we were label mates at the time, so we were both signed to Sony BMG, and we thought that, me being in her opening act for her Canadian dates was a perfect pairing, and I was so incredibly flattered, and it was such a wonderful experience. That summer was absolutely amazing. I got to meet her really quickly, and she gave me a hug, and she thanked me for being on tour with them, and her show, I got to watch her show about, probably a dozen times over that summer. What a performer. She is such a class act, such a beauty, such a great singer. She's fantastic, honestly. I'll always remember that summer. It was one of my highlights of my career for sure. Also
in 2006, you performed the national anthem at the Toronto Maple Leafs versus Ottawa Senators game, the national anthem at the 94th Grey Cup game in Winnipeg. You performed at the 2010 Winter Olympics, the closing ceremony. I've got to ask you, did a lot come your way too quickly? How did you handle all of that at one time? What was your support group like that you were leaning on?
Well, I'm really, really lucky. I grew up in a wonderful, loving family. My parents are my biggest fans. I have a wonderful group of friends. I think, yes, you're correct. It was a lot. It was a whirlwind, and I was only 19 at the time, so obviously, I was quite, taken with this huge wave of success and instant fame, and of course, it's a lot for anyone to handle, but especially, having just left the home nest at such a young age. I was so fortunate, though, to be really, really well surrounded with wonderful support. I had a great team. I will say, though, that after a few years, when the whirlwind started to kind of slow down, I did hit a wall, and I did struggle with some mental health issues. And I'm very proud of my journey. I picked myself back up, and I worked on myself, and I healed, and I'm still going through this healing journey to this day. And I'm really, really open about it. I talk about it on social media and interviews. I think that mental health is something that we're speaking about more and more these days, especially in the touring and entertainment industry. So it's really, really dear to my heart. But you are correct. It was a lot to take in a very short amount of time. And to this day, I'm so lucky. I have wonderful people around me. But first and foremost, I have myself. And I think that the work of a lifetime is learning to be your best friend and your best ally in everything that you go through in life, successes and hardships. So I'm just a really grateful human being today.
Well, listen,
I am.
I certainly do appreciate the honesty there.
Thank you.
Brit Floyd, they come a-knocking. When did Damian Darlington reach out to you and becoming a part of the group? Because I think originally you were just coming in as a substitute, if I'm right.
So 2017, I got an email from Damian, who's the musical director for Brit Floyd, and he basically just asked me, if I was available to join their U.S. tour later that fall. I believe it was in November. And this was just a few short weeks in advance, so obviously it took me by surprise, and I was I was taken aback in a good way. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. And yeah, so the singer that was leading the group, she decided she was done touring, and I think there had been an issue with the person who was supposed to substitute for her, so they had to find a North American singer in a hurry. So they were this was crunch time for them. They were oh, we got to find somebody really quick. So I had to shuffle my schedule around a little bit to make it work, but I'm so glad that I did. And then, of course, that was just a month to finish off that year. And then over the winter break, the management and Damian came back to me and said, well, we really loved your voice, and we would like to offer you to come back full-time as a permanent member of the band. And that was, 8 years ago. The rest is history.
Okay, there's a gap in here. Because for Damian to reach out to you, he had to have heard something. He just didn't do this on a whim. So and I know you were in some bands, maybe classical rock cover bands, and I don't know if you were doing any Pink Floyd or not in those bands. And if that were the case, would that be the case that would lead Damian to you?
Yes, that's exactly right. I was part of a Montreal-based rock cover band for a minute there with some great musicians, fantastic human beings. We did a lot of covers like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, of course, Rolling Stones, Iron Maiden, just a lot of amazing, amazing rock classic. And that's actually with that band that I discovered the world of Pink Floyd, and I discovered classic rock music, because up until then, with my previous releases with Sony, my music was, my original music is very pop, very R&B. So I got thrown into the world of classic rock, and I really, really loved it. I fell in love with the genre, and I fell in love with the whole Pink Floyd universe. And with that Montreal-based band, we did a short U.S. tour in which I performed Great Gig in the Sky, and then a video of that performance ended up on YouTube, and that's how Damian found me online. He was doing some research for a female vocalist who could perform the Great Gig in the Sky, and that's the video he found. And he found my name and found me on social media, and he reached out to me.
All right, from the way you performed it prior to Brit Floyd as compared to how you have perfected it now, how challenging was it, or was it?
Yeah, it's definitely very challenging. It's for any vocalist. It's a piece of music that is, it's vocal athletics to say the least. It's a tall order. It's a privilege. It's an honor because it's such an iconic song off the Dark Side of the Moon album. It's like such a special piece of music. And I first performed it with the Quebec cover band back in 2013. So I've been performing that song for over 12 years. And I always want to perfect it. It's the kind of song that you always want to work at, always want to get better, want to honor the original, be as authentic as possible, convey the emotion of the song. And there's no lyrics to the song, it's only oohs and ahs, and it's a cry of the heart. It's you have to tell a story without words. That's quite a challenge. So it's an honor and privilege, honestly, to have that responsibility night after night to perform that song.
The first time that you performed it with Brit Floyd at a concert to the public?
Well, I was really lucky because I was already, doing the song with the cover band back home. So I was already like in that groove. The ice had been broken, for several years for me with that song. And the reason I was hired in Brit Floyd was to perform that song. So I already knew what I was getting into. I wasn't like, of course I was nervous because it's such a huge responsibility and it's such a huge honor to perform that song. And the singer who was there before me, Angela Cervantes, she is fantastic, phenomenal. And I knew the fans were already really attached to her and loved her. So it was big shoes to fill for me. So there was a little bit of that pressure, of course. But I was just so excited and so thrilled and really honored to be part of Brit Floyd, which is, such a world-class, phenomenal tribute act to one of the best bands in history, in music history. So it's like, even to this day, like I have to remind myself like of how amazingly lucky I am to have this job. It's really the best job in the world.
Well,
there's no two ways about it.
It is the pinnacle. I've seen you guys for 13 years straight now. This will be my 14th when you hit Atlanta. It is the pinnacle of a Brit Floyd show. And like I said, I've seen you
so much.
And there's always the standing ovation that lasts for a few minutes after you sing it. Were you surprised at how the crowd reacted, because it kind of shut the show down for about 3 or 4 minutes while everybody got on their feet and applauded you?
Oh, it's always such an honor. Honestly, I get so emotional and so moved every time that I see this kind of love from the audience, because it's really validation, that I was able to convey the message. And, music is a journey. It makes people travel and feel things. It's an experience, So, like, the fact that people show their appreciation is just, like, it's a great pat on my shoulder to go, like, I've done my job. I've made them feel something. It's really special. Are
you ever concerned about keeping your vocals intact as you have to perform this song, because your vocal range is just phenomenal in this thing, and it's so demanding, I would think, on your voice? Well,
singers are vocal athletes. It's a lot of muscle requirements. So, just like a sports athlete would have a good hygiene of life, sleep, hydration, keeping your mental health in check, moving around, getting sunlight, getting good, decent sleep. I basically care for my voice the way I care for my body and for my mind and my spirit, It's a lot of, like I said, a lot of muscle requirements. So, I have to, stretch and do my warm-ups. I don't frequent loud environments where I have to speak over like loud music. When I was in my 20s, I definitely went through a phase of partying, to say the least. I used to smoke. I used to drink. I used to go to loud places and stay up all night. And now I'm going on 8 years sober this year. So I have a really good life hygiene, which equals out to my vocal health. But it's really holistic, if you take care of your body, your mind, your health overall in general, the voice will follow.
Has it ever been omitted from a set list? And I ask that because, you can get a cold, but have you ever had to not perform it in concert?
A couple of times. I can probably count it on one hand, though. There's definitely, excuse me, I'll start that again. There have definitely been a few occasions where we had to leave it out the set list. But fortunately, very luckily, it doesn't happen a lot. So knock on wood.
Has Claire Torrey ever reached out to you and talked to you about the way you performed the song?
No, I've never heard from her. I'd be honored to meet her someday and just thank her for what she did for music history. She's phenomenal. But no, I've never heard from her or met her. But maybe someday. You never know.
Well, let me say this. David Gilmour and Roger Waters, they go out on tour. And if I were doing it and I were one of those two and I wanted to put this song in my set list, and I don't know if they do it or not, has either of the two ever reached out to you to say, hey, I could really use what you can do on Great Gig in the Sky to come be a part of what I'm doing live?
No, they have not. We have a few, connections with some of the original members. I know that Damien had the pleasure of performing for David Gilmour at his 50th birthday party, and I know that a few members have met him as well. Speaking of Roger Waters, you probably know this already, but we have Harry Waters, his son, as a special guest with us for several weeks of this tour.
Yep.
He is phenomenal. Such a great musician, so talented, and a fantastic human being. It's such a pleasure to be on the road with him. But to go back to your question, no, I have not been asked by either of them to perform in their tour. But again, same as the Claire Torrey question, you never know. Never say never.
well, speaking of Harry, last year before you all came to Atlanta, I interviewed Harry for that Atlanta show a year ago. Now, amazing. Alan Parsons is going to be with you guys on tour, and partially on this. I don't know what leg of it it'll be, but he was so instrumental in producing Dark Side for Floyd. Have you gotten any response from him, and any additional pressure on yourself knowing that what his history is as it's attached to Dark Side? Well, we kind of met him, when did we meet him? Last year, I believe, or maybe was it 2 years ago, at a California show. He was in the audience. He was sitting by the soundboard, and he actually did have wonderful complimentary comments after the show. It was really wonderful to chat with him. And yeah, he'll be performing with us this summer during our second North American leg for, don't quote me on this, I forget exactly how many concerts, but quite a few concerts that will be performing with him. So, again, so exciting. We can't wait. All right, now you guys perform about 100 shows on this tour, 2025 tour. It spans 10 countries. Talk about the demand that this puts on you guys. How do you keep it together? When you're off stage and you've got to be around each other, somebody's doing something right to keep you guys from going after each other. Yeah, well, we're a big family, so we care a lot for each other, and we have like this deep, unconditional love for each other. We have beautiful friendships, beautiful chemistry on stage and off stage. Everybody's so wonderful, so talented. It's really, really a privilege to share the road with these guys. And we share a tour bus, we share the stage, we share dressing rooms, so you don't have a choice but to end up being family, It's really great. How do you decompress? Well, we each have our different ways, I guess. I love sport. I love working out. I love going for walks, especially when it's nice and sunny outside. I love to go out jogging. I meditate. I read books. I listen to podcasts. That sort of thing. Quite boring compared to maybe other rock star ways of decompressing, but that works for me. I understand your husband's in the band. Yes, correct. How soon after joining the group did you two make that connection? We got to know each other, being together on the road. You're 24/7 together, so it's like tour. I like to joke that tour time is, goes 10 times faster than real life time. We got married in 2020 at the end of May, so we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary soon. We got married during the lockdown, during COVID, while we were in Quebec staying with my mom during, the first lockdown. So it was a very interesting time. But it was so perfect. We decided to, get it done with our close family and friends. And, he's such a special person in my life. He's my partner. We get to share the road together. It's really a privilege, honestly. I'm a very lucky girl. Have you ever entertained the idea of maybe stepping away for a while and seeking your own path? Well, I have taken some breaks. Some of the band members, sometimes we take breaks.
I know that we all have our other projects sometimes. Like, I'm also an actress, so I've had to take a step back to work on some films and television shows. But I mean, it's a really lovely, perfect, well-balanced gig for me, because we have a few weeks of touring, and then we take a break, and then we go back out on tour, and then we take a break. So it's really a perfect, balance of schedule. But, for now, this is really, I love doing this. The traveling, performing every night with such a great group of people, seeing, places all over the world. It's really great. I'm really, really enjoying it.
As I said to start the interview, you are part of a female ensemble with Brit Floyd. Tell us a little bit about the other female members.
So we have Genevieve Little, who is absolutely phenomenal. She does a fantastic rendition of Mother, as well as some other key moments in the show. She's got such a soulful set of vocals and such a great big heart. I absolutely love her. She's my soul sister. And then on this current leg, we have the beautiful Robin Cage, who's an amazing singer-songwriter, actress. She's from Salt Lake City. Great set of vocals, a fantastic person. She's so much fun to be on tour with. We have a great time together. And then on the next leg, we have another fellow Canadian singer who's joining the tour with us. Her name is Lisa Melfi. And we have a few other amazing vocalists that we share the road with. We have the French singer, Jessie Lee Houllier. She's a singer-songwriter. She's amazing. She plays guitar. She's so badass. So we have a few female vocalists that we share the road with. Sometimes we rotate, because it's a big schedule. So sometimes we, share this grueling touring schedule. But yeah, everybody's so talented. Honestly, it's such an honor to be on stage with these ladies. It's ridiculous. The talent is just nuts.
All right, in closing, let me ask you, is there a fan page, a website, those that are intrigued by what they've heard as far as trying to keep up with you? How can they do it?
I'm on all social media. So on Instagram, I'm Eva Avila Official. You can find me on Facebook as well. I go by Eva Avila, so that's EVA AVILA. And then I do have a website, but I'm so sorry, it's not really up to date. It's EvaAvilaOfficial.com. I probably should update it a little bit more, but that'll come with time, I'm sure. And, I've done some really amazing work in acting as well. I've done a couple of films. I did a couple of years ago a movie called Autumn and the Black Jaguar, which is a beautiful family film shot in Mexico. I got to work with a real-life baby jaguar, which was so amazing. And I've done a couple of, appearances on some TV shows like The Bold Type, Alert, and a couple of other things. But I'm definitely due to work on something cinema-wise because I do love that part of my career as well. I'm so blessed to be able to do all the things that make me happy as a performer.
Well, I was fortunate enough in my day to have seen the original Pink Floyd in concert. And I will say this, and I say this every year, and it's no exaggeration when I do say it. For those of you, and there's never going to be Pink Floyd again, but to find out what that sound was like, you've got to get yourself to a Brit Floyd show. I know there are other tribute bands out there, but the best that is on the planet right now is Brit Floyd. Get yourself to a Brit Floyd show and sit there and listen to these guys because you will swear that you're in the midst of a Pink Floyd performance. And our guest today, I want to thank once again so very much for the time, Eva Avila. Thank you so very much. Can't wait for the show in Atlanta, Georgia, and hopefully for the meet and greet. Eva, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Mickey. And you know what I just realized? The day that we're performing in Atlanta is our wedding anniversary. Isn't that crazy? It's going to be a double special day. I can't wait. We love playing Atlanta, and thank you so much for the kind words. We try to be as authentic as possible to Pink Floyd music, and I think we do a pretty good job, I must say. It's such an honor to be a part of this band.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mickey. We'll see you on the 22nd.
We'll be there. Make the music.
Thank you so much.
Make the music.
Thank you.
Fun 101. We're back in a moment.